From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome tonight. As part of efforts to draft a new constitution for Nigeria, prominent citizens under the banner of the Patriots convened in Abuja to develop a framework they say will reflect the nation's diversity and foster true democracy. Former Vice President and 2023 PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar formally quits the party, citing concerns over the current direction and leadership trajectory. A day after former President Buhari was laid to rest, Vice President Kashim Shettima leads dignitaries from across Nigeria and beyond to Daura for the 3-day Fidal prayers. And U.S. President Donald Trump urges the Attorney General Pam Bondi to release any credible information she may have regarding the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
And on business, Nigeria's headline inflation rate drops further to 22.22% in June, in line with forecast by a financial derivatives company.
On Sports News tonight, teenage sensation Lamine Yamal has officially been handed the prestigious number 10 jersey at Barcelona, a shirt famously worn by club legends.
From the nation's capital, ECOWAS takes steps to address emerging security threats ravaging the region, says it's imperative to activate standby force to meet needs of member states.
Nigeria has indeed enjoyed democracy since the year 1999, and some eminent Nigerians known as the Patriots, including the former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Chief Emeka Anyaoku, a former Governor of Ogun State, Senator Benga Daniel, as well as Professor Ben Nwabweze, are renewing the call for a new constitution for the country. Speaking at the opening of a 2-day national summit in Abuja, the elder statesmen argued strongly that the solution to Nigeria's problems rests majorly on having a complete replacement of that document, the 1999 Constitution.
Elder statesmen and other prominent Nigerians, including former governors, senior lawyers, and members of the civil society organizations, are attending this National Constitutional Summit in Abuja.
We have been in the forefront.
Known as the Patriots, the organizers believe strongly that the 1999 Constitution is not working for the citizenry.
Nigeria is a pluralistic country. For its stability and maximal development, its constitution must address its pluralism. Our present 1999 Constitution, as amended, is not such a constitution. It was not democratically formulated. It was instead imposed on the country through a decree by the military administration.
The theme of the conference, which is actualizing a constitutional democracy that works for all in Nigeria, signposts the expectations of participants at this summit.
So we, in consultation with other leaders and the compatriots, a group that I lead, believe the following must be addressed in the new constitution. Sovereignty must return to the people. We must get rid of this unitary system and reinstate the federal system of governance that our founding fathers had agreed to.
The summit aims to endorse and formally present a draft legislative bill for a new constitution to the National Assembly and President Tinubu.
Our agenda for the coming days is ambitious, but aims to be straightforward and focused. We will scrutinize vital themes, including the organization and structure of the Nigerian Federation, the role and functioning of local governments and traditional institutions. The resolutions and proposals arising from this summit will be carefully documented, further refined, and subsequently presented to both the Presidency and the National Assembly for their consideration.
Despite several amendments by the National Assembly, the 1999 Constitution continues to be criticized by many, especially for its overly centralized structure and lack of popular legitimacy.
Once seen as a shining light among its leaders, today he draws the curtain on his time with the party he helped to build, and now he moves on. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has resigned from the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. Mr. Abubakar disclosed his intention to leave the opposition party in a letter addressed to the PDP ward chairman in Jeddah local government area of Adamawa State. He says, quote, "As a founding father of this esteemed party, it is indeed heartbreaking for me to make this decision," end quote. The former VP says that the party has strayed from the ideals on which it was founded. Mr. Atiku Abubakar thanks the PDP for giving him the opportunity to serve 2 full terms as Vice President of Nigeria, and twice, a feat he described as being one of the most significant chapters of his life. Now, the resignation of Mr. Atiku Abubakar from the PDP may not come as a surprise, considering the birth of the newly formed coalition, the NDDDC, seeking to wrestle power from the ruling All Progressives Congress come 2027. The National Vice Chairman of the African Democratic Congress, Mr. Peter Ede, in a meeting held in Makadi, has urged new members from the PDP, led by former Benue State Governor Gabriel Suswam, defecting to the ADC, not to hijack the structure, but to integrate them into the new phase of the party to avoid legal disputes. However, another former Benue State Governor, Mr. Samuel Otom, has recommended the expulsion of Mr. Suswam from the PDP, as well as party members involved in the coalition.
The State Secretariat of the People's Democratic Party in Makodi, the Benue State capital, has a new host. The insignias of the African Democratic Congress occupy the structure, suggesting the emergence of the party in the state. The arrowhead of the movement is the former governor of the state, Mr. Gabriel Suswam, who is cheered as he arrives at the Secretariat. Some PDP members are attending the meeting, including aides of former Governor Samuel Otom.
I want to welcome.
The meeting is part of efforts to strengthen the party in the state, and the national vice chairman of the party is presiding over the meeting. He starts with a warning for the new members.
As we are marrying you, I want to plead with you that don't come and chase us away. The government in power is interested in seeing where there are problems. Litigations, we must avoid them.
The former Speaker pro tempore of the House of Reps, Mr. Tengu Tsegba, emerged as the acting state chairman of the party, and he hopes to get Governor Hyacinth Alia to join the party.
If you want to join the ADC, we will welcome him, provided he satisfies the requirement of the party.
However, the PDP convened an expanded state caucus meeting, which was attended by the former governor of Benue State, Mr. Samuel Otom, and the Senate Minority Leader.
What is happening in PDP is just mere differences between members of the party. And I can assure you, when the time is ripe, when God's time comes, we all come back together as one.
Mr. Otom recommended the expulsion of all members involved in the coalition with ADC, despite their membership of the party.
Those who have resigned, let them go. But those who say they are in PDP and they are doing coalition, there is no coalition in PDP. Myself, the leader, the chairman is here. We have agreed that there is no coalition. Nobody should talk about coalition. We want to be independent.
The PDP is urging its supporters and members to stay the course as the party works on reinventing itself ahead of the 2027 general elections.
In spite of the verdict of the highest court in the land, which saw him defeated, the PDP candidate in the September 21st, 2024 governorship election in Edo State, Asue Ighodalo, remains defiant, insisting that it's not yet over. He pledged his allegiance to the PDP, noting that the party showed him true democratic values and maturity by giving him the opportunity to run in the governorship poll within a short time of joining the party. Mr. Ighodalo was speaking at a stakeholders meeting at the party secretariat in Benin City, the Edo State capital, where he thanked the PDP faithful and the Edo people for their continued support.
Worry not and fear not, the good people of Edo State. Stay courageous, stay strong. It shall be but temporary. So what I tell all of you is, thank you. What God has ordained shall come to pass. It is but a matter of time. And God in his infinite wisdom knows when the appropriate time dawns on all of us. So let's calm down. Let's worry not. Let's keep encouraging each other and saying, thank you. The good people of Edo State were unique. We're different. Nigeria created us differently, and we're the true heartbeat of this country. You know, we're dynamic people. We're reinforced people. We stand for truth and integrity, and nobody can remove that from us, regardless of all the intimidation. For all of us here, I say thank you. I continue saying thank you. You know, the courage that the good people of Edo State have shown, the courage that you, the leadership of our party, have shown, it's totally unprecedented. So we keep saying thank you. No, somebody was asking me on Thursday, are you not sad? I said, how can I be sad? I am happy. Can you imagine 65% of a state population voting for you? What are you sad about? The people that are sad are the people that stole. It's only thieves that are sad. So, all I say is, thank you.
Let's head to the courts now, where the Federal High Court in Lagos has discharged the former governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Fayose, on charges of alleged money laundering and theft amounting to 6.9 billion naira. Justice Chukwujeku Aneke discharged the former governor after upholding his no-case submission filed to challenge his trial by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The court held that the EFCC had not been able to establish or link Mr. Fayose to the crime. Neither was a prima facie case made against him to warrant further defense. Our judiciary correspondent, Shola Shirley, reports.
It's a case that began since 2018 and it's generated a lot of public attention and interest. The EFCC had accused the former governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Ayo Fayose, of receiving a cash payment of 1.8 billion naira from the former Minister of State for Defense, Senator Musiliu Obanikoro, without using a financial institution. Mr. Fayose and one Mr. Abiodun Agbele were also said to have taken possession of another sum of 1.2 billion naira for purposes of funding his 2014 governorship campaign in Ekiti State, money which they reasonably ought to have known formed part of the proceeds of crime. Mr. Fayose pleaded not guilty, and after the EFCC concluded its case against him, he made a no-case submission, claiming that there was nothing the prosecution witnesses said which linked him to any of the offenses. The courtroom of Justice Chukwujeku Aneke could not accommodate everyone who was interested in the ruling on the no-case submission. In his decision, Justice Aneke agreed with the defendants that the witnesses and documents tendered in evidence by the EFCC was not enough to link and prove the guilt of the former governor. The court said it found that the evidence provided by the prosecution witnesses were unreliable and insufficient to warrant the defendants putting in a defense, especially as they lacked documentation to support their claims and testimonies. The judge particularly pointed out that there was no credibility in the evidence of Senator Musiliu Obanikoro, who alleged that he had paid Fayose using party funds. Justice Aneke also held that there was no credible proof of where the money came from, and the statements of some bank staffs failed to establish any link to Mr. Fayose. In the end, the judge concluded that a criminal trial requires proof beyond reasonable doubt, a requirement which was not met in the instant case. He subsequently discharged the former governor and his company, Spotless Investment Limited, which had been charged as the second defendant. It was shouts of joy for the legal team, the defendant and his supporters. Mr. Fayose, who was overcome with emotion, burst into tears, knelt to the ground while crediting God with his victory.
It's nothing but to say, God, I am grateful. This is the second time. My first tenure, I was charged. This tenure too, I was charged. And I'm not the only governor in Nigeria. I've gone through so much of trauma, pains, and equally name-calling, things that are unprecedented. Whatever it is, I am grateful to God.
The EFCC Council declined to comment on the proceedings, but in a subsequent press release, the Commission indicated its readiness to challenge the judgment on appeal. Shola Shuyeli, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Calabar, Professor Florence Obi, takes responsibility for overshooting the number of students allocated to the institution by the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, promises to resolve the crisis. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. As part of efforts to draft a new constitution for Nigeria, prominent citizens under the banner of the Patriots convene in Abuja to develop a framework they say will reflect the nation's diversity and foster true democracy. Former Vice President and 2023 PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar formally quits the party, citing concerns over its current direction and leadership trajectory. A day after former President Muhammadu Buhari was laid to rest, Vice President Kashim Shettima leads dignitaries from across Nigeria and beyond to Daura for the three-day Fidal prayers. And U.S. President Donald Trump urges Attorney General Pam Bondi to release any credible information she may have regarding the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. As you may already know, the remains of former President Muhammadu Buhari have been committed to Mother Earth in a burial conducted on July the 15th. And while the nation mourns, a three-day Fidal prayer has been concluded at his residence in Daura, Katsina State. Vice President Kashim Shettima, Governors Diko Rada of Katsina State and Babagana Zulum of Borno State led other mourners from within and outside the country to Daura for the prayer led by Imam Yazid Daura. The gathering offered prayers to God Almighty, asking him to grant the late former president eternal rest.
Mourners in numbers from within and outside Nigeria gathering at the residence of the late former president Muhammadu Buhari in Daura, Katsina State to observe the Fidal prayer for the deceased. The Vice President Kashim Shettima arrived for the prayer in company of Governor Diko Rada of Katsina State, alongside several government officials, including Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State and members of the Federal Executive Council and federal lawmakers. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar also led dignitaries, including the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general elections, Mr. Peter Obi, as well as the former governor of Kaduna State, Mr. Nasir El-Rufai. Religious and traditional leaders also joined in the prayers, which lasted for about an hour. The Fidal prayer, which is held after the burial of the deceased, is a Muslim rite of supplication for forgiveness and for the Almighty Allah to admit the deceased into paradise. The gathering featured the recitation of the Holy Quran and prayers by friends and relatives of the former president. The prayer, led by Imam Yazid Daura, also focused on the restoration of peace in troubled parts of the country. In his remarks after the prayers, Vice President Shatima describes the death of the former president as a loss to the nation and Africa.
It wasn't a loss to the family of the dead president. It was not a loss to the people of Daura Emirate or the people of Katsina State. It was a major loss to the nation and to the African continent.
Beyond the prayers, sympathizers pay tribute to the former president.
We have lost a father, we have lost a filler who has supported us in our journey. All we have to do today and beyond today forever is to continue to pray for his departed soul. May Almighty Allah accept all his good deeds.
His simplicity of life, and like I said, I was opportune to meet him while I was campaigning. His sincere appeal that we should care for the poor. I've always maintained that Nigeria must care for the poor.
All the social interventions, he was the one that took this on the first. That speaks volumes. We tend to be kind of leader that.
When you hear the name Buhari, the following attributes come to mind: trust, lack of betraying tendencies, sincerity, honesty.
A combined medical team from the Federal Medical Center, Daura, were also on ground to provide medical outreach to mourners and those attending the prayer session. The prayer is expected to continue over the coming days as part of the Muslim rite of passage.
Over to education, and in what has become a tense but pivotal moment at the University of Calabar, the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Florence Obi, has stepped in to address the persistent challenges confronting students of the Faculty of Dentistry. Speaking to the press within the university premises, Professor Obi acknowledged the pressing concerns raised by the students, which include inadequate facilities and stalled accreditation processes that have disrupted their clinical training and delayed their graduation.
The council knew about this when they came in 2022. They knew the number of students, the detail, which I didn't know the detail of the number of students. Right. They knew the number of students in the in dentistry, okay, but advised us to stop admission. If in 2022 we were advised to move these students, maybe gradually by now we would have completed that. The admission officer who went beyond the quota of 10, and when the provost actually drew my attention to the fact that they went beyond the quota of 10, and I insisted that all the students should go, and the dean kept them back. So the admission officer and the dean are the two people who are culpable in this. We have to query some people. Right. We have to invoke internal mechanisms to handle that. But definitely there will be consequences. I take responsibility. Even the ones I inherited when I'm having problems, why wouldn't I take responsibility? I am the head. I can't deny that. I want to really appeal to the students and to parents, because I've read somewhere where students are getting depressed and some of them are threatening suicide. I want to really appeal to my students to hold it, to be calm, that on my honor, we'll see her together with MG Khan, and I'm going to go to my minister to appeal to him to intervene, because if we have some staff, which is the critical issue, if we have staff and we know that the minister has given us permission to employ, the student we employ them, we are waiting clearance from Federation Budget Office. When we employ those staff and then get the dental chairs that MG Khan has asked us to do, we will be able to invite them back in the next 1 or 2 months, and largely part of these problems will be resolved.
We're in Plateau State now, where the recent killing of over 20 people in a wave of violent attacks by some gunmen has attracted the attention of the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, who visited some communities in Riam local government area today. Governor Mutfwang, who was moved by the plight of the victims, assured them that government will do whatever it takes to find the perpetrators and bring them to justice.
By the grace of God, we will use every means at our disposal to make sure that this genocide comes to an end. Amen. I don't know who will tell me that what happened yesterday is farmers' herders clash. No, not true. This is an act of terrorism. This is pure genocide. And I can assure you that we'll escalate this matter. Please be patient. I want you to be patient. Like Dr. Jambol said, we will not throw the baby at the bathwater. There are gallant soldiers that have stood in defense of the land, and we thank them. But certainly there are bad eggs. And we are going to take appropriate steps to make sure that these bad eggs are fished out.
Still ahead on the news at 10. Nigeria's headline inflation rate drops further to 22.22% in June, in line with forecast by financial derivatives company. That's in business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. Let's now head to the nation's capital, and Millicent Walker is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Great to see you again, Millicent. Over to you.
Same here. Many thanks, Ayotunde. We begin with keeping the peace and fostering security in the West African sub-region, where the acting head of peace operation of ECOWAS, Mr. Sani Adamu, says Guinea-Bissau and Gambia have kick-started peacekeeping missions as part of operations under the ECOWAS standby force. Mr. Adamu made the disclosure at a validation and policy meeting in Abuja. He noted that due to emerging security threats ravaging the region, there is a need to activate the ECOWAS standby force in its kinetic form to meet the needs of member states.
Yearnings and the aspirations of our member states in terms of the emerging threats of terrorism, we need to also activate the ECOWAS standby force in its kinetic form, so that it will be able to actually fully fight terrorism. The ministers of finance as well as ministers of defense will soon have a meeting in Abuja. Like you remember the last meeting, they agreed to be able to have this meeting so that they will mobilize the required resources. To activate the ECOWAS standby force in its kinetic form will require substantial injection of resources. So we intend to have this meeting of ministers of finance of the region to be able to see how best the resources will be mobilized. So as soon as that is done, we'll be able now to move into the theater in terms of actually, having the ECOWAS standby force in its kinetic form to fight and to confront terrorists and terrorist activities as well.
But away from security in the sub-region to another kind of security, mining. Well, a total of 7 billion naira has been generated from the payment of mining licenses in the first quarter of 2025, and that's according to the federal government. Minister of Mining and Solid Minerals Development, Mr. Delia Lake, made the revelation during the 4th African Natural Resources and Energy Investment Summit in Abuja. Our correspondent, Kumbi Aboluwade, has more.
The 4th edition of the African Natural Resources and Energy Investment Summit, and the federal government is hosting government officials and investors from Liberia, Kenya, Australia, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Japan.
Welcome as it comes forward.
Themed, Harnessing Local Content for Sustainable Development. The Pan-African Gathering is focusing on transforming Africa's resources into long-term prosperity.
It looks like we have recognized our problem as a continent.
Number one, we have procrastinated for far too long. Number two, we have not been decisive in relooking at the entire support architecture on our minerals.
As global trends shift towards decentralization, digitization, and decarbonization, Nigeria is working to ensure that local content does not only remain a policy slogan, but becomes a measurable level for economic growth, industrial capacity, and energy security.
According to data from Business Insider Africa, the continent is estimated to house 30% of the world's mineral reserve, ranging from gold, lithium, iron ore, limestone, coal, among others. However, the inability of these resources to reflect on the fortunes of the continent is highlighted by the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, who is representing President Bola Tinubu at the summit, who wants governments across Africa to do more.
The Mining Cadastral Office processed 955 title applications, and we approved 867 new mining licenses. These licensing fees generated about 7 billion for the government in just 3 months of this year. We must be clear. We are not looking for charity, nor are we outsourcing our development. Not just as a source of raw materials, but as a destination for innovation, manufacturing, and shared value.
Over the next 2 days, the summit is expected to birth the Africans for Africa initiative, which is designed to mobilize African capital to invest in Africa's natural resources, industries, and infrastructure for sustainable development and economic sovereignty. From Abuja, Kumbi Aboluade, Channels Television News.
To all the stories, the Managing Director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, Dr. Samuel Ogbuku, says inconsistent leadership has been a major obstacle to the agency's effectiveness over the past 25 years. Speaking as a special guest on Channels Television's breakfast program, Sunrise Daily, he explained that many developmental projects were abandoned due to a lack of continuity in leadership and policy direction within the Commission.
25 years, NDDC have had 16 MD CEOs in the last 25 years, which has actually destabilized the NDDC. That has also created room for inconsistency and projects not being taken to the latter, which has also created a lot of abandoned projects all over the place. The public need to know this. It's not because people that are there intended to abandon projects, but when someone is there for 1 year, the person leaves, his programs are not also being completed, his vision is not being achieved, another person comes after 1 year again. There's that, that has actually affected NDDC, which I would say is one of the major challenges we've had in NDDC. And with that, this government, Mr. President, tasked us that we must complete all abandoned legacy projects, and that is what we're trying to do. So for us, one of the major achievements we want to have that is pivotal to us in NDDC right now is to complete those legacy projects that will add value to the people of the Niger Delta. Most of these projects, funds have been expended, and it is left for us to add more funds to add value to what has been expended so far, because it's public funds. So I think that is what we're actually focusing on and concentrating on, while we're also trying to ensure that we carry out some other new projects that also affect the lives of the people and doing things based on needs assessment, because needs assessment is very, very important so that we don't also carry out projects that do not also impact on the people. For example, our needs assessment gave us the opportunity to come up with the Operation Light of the Niger Delta, which has been very, very successful. It has reduced criminality in the Niger Delta and also improved commerce in the region. So I think that is something everybody applauds. So we're also doing all that, but pivotal, we must complete most of these abandoned projects, such as the Bonny Ring Road project, which we've started, the Calabar Bridge, which is 1.2 kilometers long, which we're also hoping to complete by the ending of this year. That commitment we've made, the Okrika-Bodokri Bridge. Most of these projects, the contractors have been mobilized back to site, and they are working. So it is also our commitment to complete them.
And that's it from the nation's capital. Back to Lagos for more on the news at 10.
Many thanks, Millicent. Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited, PINL, is expanding its surveillance operations to include gas pipelines and other critical oil and gas infrastructure within the Eastern Corridor. The announcement was made during the company's July 2025 stakeholders engagement in Port Harcourt, where traditional rulers, community leaders and security agencies converged to pass a vote of confidence on the company for their progress in safeguarding national assets.
It's the July 2025 stakeholders engagement of Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited, PINL, in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. It's a meeting that brings together traditional rulers, community leaders, youth representatives and agencies to assess ongoing efforts to safeguard critical oil and gas infrastructure in the Eastern Corridor of the Niger Delta.
We call on you to stand even stronger together. Step up your commitment and carry out this broader responsibility with renewed strength and unity for the benefit of our dear nation.
PINL has also announced an expansion of its mandate to include the protection of gas infrastructure and appeals for continued community support in tackling oil theft and sabotage.
The message to every one of us is to ensure that every effort is put in place to stop the activities of illegal refineries in our localities.
Pipeline infrastructure, we want to assure you in the land that we will join hands with the youths to ensure that illegal bunkering and flaring is curtailed.
As part of its corporate social responsibility, the company says it will launch a scholarship scheme and women-focused skills acquisition program by Q4 of 2025.
This gathering today is a pointer for us to know that there is no need for us to destroy pipeline. Rather, we appreciate the PIN for what they are doing, so they will continue to, give instruction to our youths based on what they are doing to ensure that we don't go back to where we were before.
Securing the pipeline is key to secure our environment, to secure our farmlands and everything.
There is nothing as strategic as this. So for us, Pipeline Infrastructure Limited is getting it right. And that, of course, working in synergy with the military, it's giving a very drastic effect on the clampdown of illegal bunkering and oil theft.
With strong endorsements and renewed commitments, stakeholders agree that they will continue to work with PINL to protect national oil and gas assets. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
Time now for some business news with Will Ibom. Will?
Thank you, Ayotunde. Now, in line with projection by economic advisory firm Financial Derivatives Company over the weekend, Nigeria's headline inflation fell for a third consecutive month in June. According to official figures released today by the National Bureau of Statistics, this marks a 0.75% decline when compared with the 22.97% headline inflation rate recorded in May this year. A brief highlight of the June inflation report shows that the food sub-index rose by 0.83% against the 21.14% rate recorded in May, and this is attributed to the increase in the prices of key food items such as fresh meat, fresh tomatoes, plantain flour, among others. Meanwhile, other key inflation sub-indexes, core, urban, and rural inflation recorded declines within the comparative period, and this is attributed to base effects, relative foreign exchange stability. Now, an autobiography that promises to be a phenomenal memoir put together by billionaire businessman and chairman of Girigu Power, Mr. Fem Tedellas, is in the offing. The book, its title yet to be disclosed, chronicles his journey through the world of entrepreneurship, highlighting his modest beginnings and the rise to success, creating a business empire in almost 3 decades. The book on business lessons spotlights the obstacles he faced and the strategies he employed to overcome them all. Here are some of the key things to expect from the book: its entrepreneurial exploits and acumen, business strategy and planning, market penetration and operational efficiency. The 62-year-old, among Nigeria's foremost veteran business moguls, best known for his leadership roles in energy, finance and industrial sector, has won multiple awards which include Activist Investor and Market Maker of the Year by Nairametrics and Investor of the Year 2024 by The Nation newspaper. His investments have been driven by confidence in President Bola Tinubu's economic reforms and monetary policy leadership under the CBN Governor Yemi Cardoso. Mr. Tedellas is the chairman of First Holdco since January 2024, has hosted top government and business leaders, including Vice President Shettima and governors from Lagos, Ogun, and Ondo states at the groundbreaking ceremony of First Bank's new 43-story edifice in Lagos, set to become Nigeria's tallest building. And with that, we head to the domestic equities market, which resumed trading. We see the all-share index surging to new levels at the index crossed 128,000 points. Laddie Williams tells us more.
Well, Nigeria's market returned today after Nigerians bade farewell to former President Muhammadu Buhari. There was no trading yesterday, but today the trades were on, and we see the bulls there. They returned with a lot of vigor. 1.80% for the all-share index, 128,000. Now, I guess 130,000 is in view at this point. And trading activity was heavy today, with value of trades up over 1,000% and volume up 800%. Let's look at the sectors that we track now. We see the banking counter got a boost today, 7.05% to close. A bigger move than consumer goods there, 1.33%, but the laggard oil and gas counter, 0.19%. Let's look at the tier 1 banks now to see why the sector there is up over 7%. We see the likes of First Holdco there adding 9.90%, UBA 9.78%, and GTCO there with a 7.62% advance. We pushed GTCO's share price there to over 100 naira, making it the first Nigerian bank that's listed to cross over 100 naira per share there with that 7.62% advance. The analysts I spoke to earlier said investors from the fixed income market are shifting to the stock market, which is driving Nigeria's market all-share index to new highs.
Thank you, Laddie. Let's hope to hit more record highs in the coming weeks. But let's see the performance of other major global markets right now. And that's business news. It's back to you today.
Thank you, Will. The U.S. has deported 5 people who were described as criminal illegal aliens to the southern African kingdom of Eswatini. On board the flight were 5 deportees from Vietnam, Jamaica, Laos, Cuba, and Yemen who have been convicted of crimes ranging from child rape to murder. A U.S. Homeland Security Department Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin has said. Here's Simon Pierce with more international news and around the world in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
Mr. President,
The US President Donald Trump has said Attorney General Pam Bondi should release whatever she thinks is credible on the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein as he faces a rare backlash from supporters after seeking to draw a line under the case. Bondi has been lambasted by some of Trump's political base after she said last week there was no evidence that Epstein kept a client list or was blackmailing powerful figures.
Thank you all for being here today.
At the weekend, Mr. Trump urged his supporters not to waste time and energy on the controversy.
The Attorney General's handled that very well. She's really done a very good job, and I think that when you look at it, you'll understand that. I would like to see that also, but I think the Attorney General, the credibility is very important, and you want credible evidence for something like that, and I think the Attorney General has handled it very well.
At least 20 people have been killed in an incident in Khan Yunis, that's according to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the controversial Israel and US-backed organization. In a statement, it said 19 people were trampled and one was stabbed in a surge driven by agitators in a crowd. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry claimed 21 Palestinians were killed, including 15 who died of suffocation as a result of tear gas fired at the GHF site. Neither account has been independently verified. At least 2 people have been killed in Russia's overnight strikes across Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky said the large-scale attacks targeted energy infrastructure and left at least 15 people injured. Ukraine's Air Force said Russia launched 400 drones and 1 ballistic missile. Russia has stepped up its attacks on cities across Ukraine this summer and was cited by Donald Trump as a reason for his decision to approve more weapons for Ukraine. Bradley Murdoch, the Australian man who murdered the British backpacker Peter Falconio in 2001, has died from throat cancer. The 67-year-old was serving a life sentence at a prison in Alice Springs in Australia's Northern Territory. The Department of Corrections said he died in Alice Springs Hospital's palliative care unit on the 15th of July, a day after the 24th anniversary of the killing. He has never revealed where he dumped the body of Peter Falconio.
The takeaway from Bradley Murdoch's death is the impact it will have on the Falconio family, that the opportunity to resolve that part of this horrific crime is now lost forever. I can't imagine what the family are going through, but I'm sure they were hopeful that prior to his passing, he would have disclosed the location of Peter Falconio's body, and I think that's an absolute tragedy.
The Cuban Minister for Labour, Marta Elena Feito Cabrera, has been forced to resign after she made comments denying the existence of beggars on the communist-run island. The minister said there was no such thing as beggars in Cuba, and people going through rubbish were in essence doing it out of choice to make easy money. Her comments, made in a parliamentary session, were widely criticised. Poverty levels and food shortages have worsened in Cuba as it continues to grapple with a severe economic crisis. The Harry Potter actress Emma Watson has been banned from driving for 6 months after she was caught speeding. Watson, who played Hermione Granger in the film franchise Harry Potter, drove 38 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour zone in Oxford on the evening of the 31st of July last year. Watson already had 9 points on her licence before the speeding incident occurred. The 35-year-old, now a student, was made to pay a total of £1,044. And a rare oil portrait of the Indian independence leader Mahatma Gandhi has been sold at auction in London for £152,000. The figure is much higher than the £50,000 to £70,000 that the auction house had estimated the work might fetch. It was painted in 1931 by the British artist Claire Leighton when Gandhi visited London. Bonhams said the painting is thought to be the only oil portrait Gandhi sat for.
What's quite rare about this painting is that Gandhi never sat for a painting or portrait other than this work that we know of. It was written about in an exhibition in 1978 at the Boston Public Library in the introduction to the exhibition catalogue. It was a friend of Claire Leighton who wrote that, and he said that this was the only painting that Gandhi ever sat for.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Super Falcons duo Ashley Plumter and Rasheedat Ajibade have been included in the Women's African Cup of Nations Group Stage Best 11. The selection was compiled by the competition's technical study group. South Africa's Bambanani Umbane and Fikile Magama, as well as Zambia's Lushomo Umwimba, are the other defenders on the shortlist. Young Barcelona star Lamine Yamal inherited the club's number 10 shirt, previously worn by all-time great Lionel Messi. The 18-year-old winger, often compared to the Argentine superstar, who also came through the club's youth academy, helped the Catalan Giants win a domestic treble last season. And Croatian captain Luka Modric says he signed a one-year contract with AC Milan to stay competitive and in Europe. Modric, who turns 40 in September, joined the Spanish giant from Tottenham in 2012, going on to win 6 Champions Leagues, 4 La Liga titles, and 2 Copa del Rey trophies. And that's it on sports. It's back to you, Ayo.
And the main news again. Prominent citizens under the banner of the Patriots today convened in the nation's capital of Abuja to develop a framework that could herald a new constitution for Nigeria. As they said, it will reflect the nation's diversity and foster true democracy. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. You have a good night.